Hey, Walter Sorrells back with more tips for the knife maker. There are 5 reasons why people don't get into knife making, and I'm going to tell you how to get over every single solitary one of them. Okay, so today we're going to make a very simple knife from this, a rusty, crummy looking old file. But that is not really the main point of today's video. You know, I meet a lot of my viewers at, the Blade Show or conferences or hammer-ins and things like that. And there are a fair number of them who tell me that they've been kicking around the idea of making knives, sometimes for years, and there's always some obstacle, some hump that they can't get over. Something's stopping them. They really want to make knives, but something's in the way. So today, in the course of making a knife out of this, I'm going to take on all the most important obstacles to knife making, and I'm going to show you how to overcome them. 1, I don't have enough shop space. 2, I can't afford a belt grinder. 3, I've got a belt grinder, but my grinding skills suck. 4, I don't have heat treating equipment. And 5, I don't have a forge. Now, there are plenty of, smaller kind of things, problems with specific technical things, drilling holes or knowing what material to buy. You're not sure where to get the material. And we'll touch on some of these things as we go. But the big 5 that I just mentioned are the ones that hang most people up who want to make knives, but they're all overcomable, more or less. So let's just dive in. Let's start with obstacle number 1, shop space. I've got a nice big shop now, but I started out in a 2-car garage and spent most of my career doing that. But what if you don't even have that? Here, I'm wheeling a cart out of my shop. I bought this very sturdy steel cart at auction for $5. You can't even buy a Coors Light at a minor league baseball game for that. Now, I'm not going to make the entire knife on here, but I could literally just bolt a grinder and a vise from Home Depot and a drill press onto a cart like this, and you have an entire shop in a 10-foot square area. Now, the good news is that you can make knives in a 1-car garage. You can make knives in a little Home Depot shed in your backyard. You can roll your tools out onto your patio or your driveway and work out there. There are a lot of ways, if you're resourceful, that you can make use of all kinds of parts of your property to make knives. Now, here's the one problem. If you live in an apartment, there's just no shop space. That's just a given. It doesn't mean that you can't be resourceful and find a place. There's a guy you see every year at Blade Show. You may have seen some of his videos on YouTube. He's a Mexican guy. He lives in Mexico City in an apartment, and he actually uses an angle grinder on his balcony to make knives, and they're quite nice knives. He's doing it all in a space that's about the size of this workbench here. So it can be done. Also, one of the guys on the episode of Forged in Fire that I was in lived in Manhattan with his dad in an apartment. It was about 12 square feet. It was a tiny space. There was no way he was going to be making knives in there. He, found some other guys who were interested in knife making, and they rented a little industrial space in Brooklyn. And, once they sort of divided it up, it wasn't super expensive. They shared the expenses of some of the tools and so forth. And, he was able to make really beautiful knives right there in Brooklyn. And it was a where there's a will, there's a way kind of thing. The beauty of using a file for a knife is that it's already hardened. More on that later, but that does mean you can't cut it with a hacksaw. So I'll start by chopping the end off this file with a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder. Now, in case you don't have an old rusty file sitting around, I bought a whole bag of files like this on eBay for like 30 bucks. Believe me, rusty files are out there. Next, I'll use this production knife as a template. I'm using a specialized scribing tool called a Sharpie. And there's our pattern. You know, if you watch videos on the interwebs, as we all have, you'll see guys like me grinding away with these really nice, expensive belt grinders, and they're great. There's no substitute for a really good belt grinder. But do you need them? No, you don't. Quick pitch here. If you've been enjoying this channel over the years as I bring you videos about gear, saving money, making better knives, and knife making builds, I'd invite you to jump in and help the channel. How to do it? Patreon. Those of you who help out on Patreon will not only be supporting me so that I can make more and better videos, but you'll get access to plans for most of my builds, today's included, as well as access to me if you got questions about the craft of knife making. Patreon.com/Walter Sorrells. Next issue, the grinder. I've been making knives for 25 years, a fair part of that professionally, so I have this whole collection of really nice pro grinders. Does that mean you can't make a knife without one of these? Nope. I've got a whole variety of grinders here ranging from $60 to $260 that you can use to make knives with. And there are all kinds of discount grinders out there. Are they as good as my Ameribraid or my Broadbent or my Bader? Of course not. But they all literally cost less than 1/10 as much. The ones I've shown here and the tons of Harbor Freight type clones out there will all work. I've reviewed many of these in other videos. So here I'm using a Buck Tool 2x42 grinder with a 36 grit ceramic belt to rough out the outline. Now don't scrimp on belts when using underpowered grinders like this. 36 grit ceramic is absolutely the bomb for this kind of work. As you can see, a grinder like this will stall out if you push it too hard. So just take your time and use the most aggressive belt you can get your hands on. The only tricky bit is this inside corner. Now you can use the tracking knob right here to hang it off the edge a little bit, and that'll soften that grind. Or on some grinders, like this $60 Harbor Freight, you can actually use the curves of the idler wheel to grind that radius. If you peck away at it on the corner of your platen, like I'm doing here, you'll need to finish up by hand. Heavy grit sandpaper and some kind of round form will get you there. In this case, 2-inch ID plumbing pipe. Okay, so there we are, nice outline of a knife. Next, it's time for the bevels. Next problem. Maybe you've taken a class or you've seen a guy on the internet talking about it, or maybe you bought a belt grinder and you've taken a few stabs at making knives and you're just having trouble grinding, particularly bevels. Hey, look, you're not alone. Every knife maker has trouble grinding effectively when they first get started. It just is a challenge, but help's on the way, and this is it right here. It's called a grinding jig. Simply put, a bevel grinding jig is a device for propping a knife up at a specific angle so that you can grind bevels at whatever that angle is. I happen to manufacture a couple of them, including this, the Sorrells brick. Now, jigs come in all shapes and sizes. Most have variable angles, but some of them, like the one that I make here, has fixed angles. But they all do the same thing. Now, look, there are jillions of different jigs on the market, so you don't have to use mine. But this Sorrells brick was really designed exactly for this type of situation. It's an inexpensive, simple jig with a relatively small footprint, so it fits comfortably on a smallish work table like the one on this Buck tool. So I'm using the 7-degree angle here, just right for a big fat file like this. Just plop it on there and start grinding. One thing to be aware of is you can easily overheat the steel and ruin the temper, which defeats the whole purpose of using a file. Again, more on that later. You'll know if you overheated it because it turns brown or blue on the edge. Just keep a water bucket nearby and dunk it in the water whenever the steel starts getting hot. Here you can see we're getting close. I'm aiming for about 20 thousandths of an inch thickness. A few more minutes on the grinder and we're right where we want to be. As soon as your bevels are clean and crisp, always give them a shot of oil or WD-40. This is carbon steel, so it'll rust in a heartbeat. Next, we'll work on the handle. But first, using my fancy heat treating oven will harden the... Oh, no, we don't have to do that, do we? All right, here's another issue, heat treating. For those of you who don't know, the types of steel that are suitable for knife making, and by the way, most steel that's made in the world is not any good for knives, but steel that's used for knife making requires something called heat treating. It has to be hardened. When you buy it straight from the mill, it's soft. It won't hold an edge if you make a knife-shaped object out of it, and so you have to go through this process called heat treating. Basically, you heat the stuff up to between 1500 and say 2000 degrees. It totally depends on the type of steel. Cool it down at certain rates, and that will result in a blade that'll hold an edge. So you can't do that in mom's oven, 1500, 2000 degrees, whatever. That is just beyond the capacity of normal ovens. So you need something like I have back there, a heat treating oven, right? Actually, no. Why not? Well, it's pretty simple. There are actually two ways to skin this cat. The first is you can actually buy steel that's already been hardened. This file right here comes nice and stinking hard. Possibility number two is you can have somebody else do your heat treating for you. Okay, so related to the heat treating issue is what I have sitting over there, which is a forge. A lot of people assume that you need all this stuff that I have over there. I got a forge, I've got an anvil, I've got tongs, I've got hammers, I've got a press. Do you need that stuff? No, you do not. We've all watched Forged in Fire, and it's cool to see guys with all the fire and flames going up to the ceiling and all that stuff. And so you might assume that that's kind of an intrinsic part of all knife making. It is not. Obviously, if you want to get into forging, which by definition requires a forge, then yes, you got to get all that stuff. But my point is that just because they forge stuff on Forged in Fire or whatever doesn't mean that you have to. Most knife makers are stock removal guys, not hammer and anvil guys. You know, I love all that stuff. That's how I got started making Japanese swords and all that. But one thing that a lot of people kind of underestimate when they get started with the forge is that they still have to have a belt grinder. They still have to turn that knife shape into something nice and sharp, and that requires a belt grinder. So with the heat treating problem out of the way, I'll carefully select my handle material from the meticulously cataloged and scrupulously organized pile of curated scrap wood next to my saw. Now, most work on knives can be done entirely with hand tools. I have all kinds of fancy power saws, but in a case like this, it literally takes the same amount of time to cut this with this old saw I bought sometime in the 20th century as it would to slap it on the bandsaw. Now, I have to say, this is actually a pretty sweet piece of wood. Scrap rosewood from a guitar fingerboard that I'm working on, but you could literally rip a piece of wood off a pallet or just grab something from Home Depot. It's going to work fine. Just to raise the fancy quotient here, I'm going to give a pop of color to the knife using this yellow fiber liner material. You can buy a 12-inch square of this stuff from knife supply places like Pops for $3. After cutting them to shape, I'll super glue them to the wood. Then I'll pretty up the front faces of those handle scales with more expensive power tools. Follow that with some sandpaper. Normally, knife makers pin their handle material so that those scales will stay on. And so normally you'd need to drill those holes with a drill press. But in this case, I've got this file with all those teeth sticking up, and I've got these slightly mushy fiber liners that will crush right into the teeth when I clamp them. So we're just going to dodge the whole drilling thing altogether. This handle's going to stay on till the crack of doom, no pins required. I'm using 2-part epoxy. Now this is the 30-minute stuff, but in a pinch you can get by with 5-minute epoxy from the hardware store. Pro tip, 30-minute epoxy gives you a lot more time to screw up. Now it's back to the grinder. I'll trim off the exterior. Then I'll just rock it against the platen like so to give it a nice rounded, comfortable handle. A little sandpaper. I might have cheated and hit it on the buffer for a minute or two, but if I did, I wouldn't tell you. And there it is. Took me less than a day using a bunch of cheap-ass tools and some scrap material. And I could have done the whole thing in my driveway if I wanted to. You know, that's a legit knife. I mean, people sometimes assume that starting with a file, you're going to end up with something that still looks kind of ugly and rusty and all that. If you want to make that rustic type knife, you can, but you can also make a really refined knife out of something quite rough. All right, so let me wrap up with one more point. It's about patience. And you know, the truth is, I think most of us were either born patient or we weren't. You can't preach it into people. Nonetheless, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so here's what I'm getting at. One of the cool things about knife making is there are just limitless amounts of things to learn. There's metallurgy, there's, you know, the physical craft of shaping things on a belt grinder. They're using files and machinist tools. There's drilling, there's milling. You know, there's wood, there's the historical, you know, the historical aspect. If you get into making Japanese swords or Middle Eastern swords or, you know, Western, you know, things from the Old West, all these aspects require that you learn something, and all of them, when you walk in, you're kind of starting from zero. And so if you keep that learner's mindset, that beginner's mindset, then it's not, you don't feel like you have to be perfect from the very get-go. And I think aside from all these practical obstacles that I've talked about, a sense of, you know, I'm not going to be perfect right off the bat probably defeats a lot of people. And give yourself a little grace. You know, it's one of these things where you just jump in and you start working, take advantage of the tools that you do have, the shop space that you do have, and if you throw yourself into it, you'll find you'll be amazed at how much progress you'll make and how good you'll get quickly if you really put your back into the wheel. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and keep on making those knives.